So yeah, it's great. You mentioned that you're working with about 4 or 5 other builders as well. I mean, we've given Lucky a huge plug, which I'm very happy with. But what other builders are you working with?
So I work a lot with Chris Ray Premium Effects, which is a husband and wife team out of Texas. And he actually approached me. And this is just a good practice. If, say, you're wanting to get into demo stuff, it's always a good idea for people to approach you first about, hey, I want you to check out my product and demo it. I've met a couple people that they come to me and they're saying, how do I go get free stuff? And it's like, well, it doesn't really work like that. I mean, it can, but very, very rarely. Usually you want someone to come to you and like
Yeah.
what you do. But anyway, so Chris Ray,
if I may, to be honest with you, there are even the short space of time I've been in, there's a few people that offered me things, and to be honest with you, I don't feel comfortable with it. I just don't. I don't know. It may be just the way I am. It's easier for me to give than to receive, if I'm being honest.
yeah.
But yeah, you get people offering you things and stuff. But yeah, I think the first and foremost, you got to do it to give, haven't you? Really, that's first and foremost.
Right. Yeah, I think there's this misperception, and maybe I was like this when I first got into it, is that because originally all I wanted from YouTube and making gear demos in general is that I wanted to start getting gear instead of spending every single dollar I have to buy gear to make videos, because it was very cost prohibitively expensive when I was reviewing high-end guitars to make YouTube videos. But what I realized later is that you're always going to spend all the money on gear. It doesn't matter what you do.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, crikey, I wouldn't like to think how much. Well, my musical gear insurance costs more than my household insurance. Let's just put it that way. It just acquires. You just becomes, And I bought the Boss was a tube amp expander that recently this year, and that wasn't really kind of planned. But then again, it just bumps it up, and it's an expensive hobby. But hobbies are expensive, aren't they? Or they can be, or they could be that expensive as you want them to be.
I think this is musical instruments, I think, is a relatively good investment. There's better return on investment hobbies where you won't really lose money with depreciation and things. But as far as hobbies go, I think it's one of the best ones that's suited to quarantine life. And that might be why we see such a spike in sales, because it's one of the few things you can do from home that's perpetually entertaining. That's not just binging on. I think what happened is a lot of people got laid off for working from home. They got sick of being in front of a screen all day, so they don't necessarily want to watch another 4 hours of Netflix or play a video game for the same amount of time. Some do, but I think that there's been a push for what other activities can be enjoyed without necessarily having to be stuck on a screen. So maybe that's why we see a spike in gear sales. But to your point, yeah, it's a passion. But yeah, so Chris Ray, he doesn't have a website. You have to contact him directly for builds. Just the last couple video campaigns that I did have been so successful in terms of driving sales that he's starting to get a pretty significant backlog. So I think I might have brought in too much business because it's that no face pedal, the Super Fuzz that I got, it just something about that demo, maybe it's because I was so excited when I got it, and it just genuinely shocked me how raw and amazing that fuzz was. So I shared that video, and I think the day that I shared it, we got 6 orders in, which for a builder of that size that doesn't have a website or a reverb store is pretty significant.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Chris Ray has made me a lot of units. I would have to do a recount again. So I want to say I'm at right around 20 from Chris Ray Premium Effects. But his wife Michelle does all that art with paint pens. Did you know that?
Wow, incredible!
Like if you've seen some of those pieces of artwork, that's all done by hand.
Yeah,
I think that's.
And I think with artwork as well, I think the first time I really saw some like true artwork as such on a pedal was Jam FX in Greece. That was the first time I'd seen hand painted, enclosures. I mean, there might have been, it might have been done by others beforehand, but I just hadn't noticed it. And it just seems that since that sort of time, a few years ago, it's just really caught on, the hand painted enclosures. And Ryan Entrekin, he said to me that, that he probably spends more time on the artwork of the enclosures than he does actually on building the actual circuitry. It's a phenomenal amount of work.
Yeah, I think that is the part that people miss. And I've been critical of other companies in the past, is that, so in a drive pedal or a fuzz, unless you're talking super rare high-end components that are hard to come by, there's a fraction of what the thing costs in parts, right? So there's $10-$20 in parts, even in a high-end fuzz pedal, or especially in manufactured stuff with SMD. But the enclosure itself and the art and the finish time and the materials to do finish is probably double the cost of the actual components.
Yeah.
And that's a part that's missed on a lot of people. And I like collecting all my fuzzes for the art. Eventually I'm going to figure out some kind of display method that's a lot more tasteful than just piles of pedals on the floor in my demo room that I'm looking at.
Yeah.
But yeah.
You've got 50 fuzzes now. So you acquired 50 fuzz pedals this year. You achieved it. You got the 50.
I did. I need to do it. I've been meaning to do it, but since I returned from vacation, my priority has been to get as much content done as possible so that I can kind of prioritize other things throughout my week. What I've realized is the most effective way for me to film is to batch it. So for an hour or two, I'll just film. So I'll knock out a bunch of the filming, get all the files together, and then I'll edit them through the week. And I found this to be extremely effective. But I have been meaning to gather all the fuzzes and recount and take a picture of how many I actually have. When I did my first photo that I said I had 50, there was a couple boosts in there. So I had bought all 50, but they weren't there yet. So there was some still in the mail that had yet to ship. And so I said I did, because I did technically buy 50 fuzzes this year. I just didn't have all of them at once. And so I'm going to do a recount. I want to say I am pushing up towards 60 already, but I don't know. I don't know because I haven't counted them.
Brilliant. Excellent. We're hoarders, aren't we? Us guitar
Yes.
we're hoarders, we're obsessives. we're quite addictive thinkers as well, I think, as well.
I have to put a big plug in for Dirty Haggard Audio. They are local to me. Their headquarters is about an hour from me, and it's mostly Nick Rogers, who I think has contributed to FX Pedal Planet.
Yeah.
And so,
oh, yeah, absolutely.
And he has one of the best business models for a small builder I've ever seen. So what he has is an official website, and he communicates a lot through Instagram, but he only makes officially 3 pedals. And I only don't have one of them because he's waiting to make me a custom version of it that doesn't exist yet. So he had this enclosure he found anyway, so that'll be cool. But he specializes in gnarly gated fuzzes, and if I buy something from him, I get it the next day because of our proximity. So I don't have to, I could drive and go meet him, but he can just throw it in the mail and I have it the next day. But his torsion pedal, I feel like, is one of the most unique and adventurous fuzz designs I've tried this year, because it's a gated fuzz with an adjustable gate, so you can dial in, and it's not a function of bias like a lot of other pedals are. His is actually like a linear noise gate built into the fuzz.
Wow.
And he makes a couple really cool gated designs. And so yes, his website sells 3 things, but then if he has prototypes or new things he's working on, he'll post them on Instagram with pictures and then on his Reverb store. And I feel like this business model is really effective for someone of that size because it limits the number of things you have to stock. You don't have to try and have parts for 20 different designs at any one time.
Yeah.
You can order PCBs that are refined and refine those similar designs and not get overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And then, yeah.
I've thought that myself when I've looked across, and you've got Michael at Tontouga. He's got, I think, 5 designs at the minute, and it's enough. 5 cracking, really good designs, you know,
Right.
Prism and stuff like that, and just good quality pedals. And you've got those. I'm sure he'll have more coming on the way, like. But I do. I hear what you're saying. I like just a few simple choices, maybe 5 pedals to, you know, choose from. I mean, that's not to say in having a whole load of pedals is not, you know, exciting. Of course it is. But yeah, I think just a few pedals is nice to choose from, for sure, particularly if you're a small builder.
I think that was probably my emphasis. Is his is one of the few business models I've seen for that scale where Nick is doing everything himself. I think that works really well. And then I also work with Shock Rock Brandon Shock, who is an absolute genius builder. I would say out of everyone I work with, he probably has the most experience in really out there digital stuff, because he got into DSP programming on Arduino before. He loves fuzz. He kind of split. He does a lot of fuzz, and then he does some really out there stuff with DSP. And he has you may have seen some of his designs, like the skull and the ammo can, and then his new super fun pedal experience thing. It's a 5 knobs and then 3 on the top. That's a delay. I'm getting that tomorrow.
Oh, hey.
So I'm excited for that. Yeah, he was the guy who got me into fuzzes in the first place. Was Brandon Shock. I found him randomly on Instagram. But he's worked for Subdecay for quite a while, which they're not as big of a name now, but a few years back, they were probably one of the bigger up-and-coming boutique builders, and they're local to us. So their headquarters is about half an hour away from where I live.
So,
and yeah, go ahead.
But I mean, do you have a dedicated pedal board? I mean, I've got a dedicated pedal board. That's my collection of pedals there. That's my pedal board. I've got a few other pedals not in the room that are not actually on the board. But is it a case with yourself where you've got so many effects, you can't fit them all onto a board? Do you have a board, or do you have and what does it look like? Do you have a certain number of effects that you favor on that board, or how does it work with yourself?
This is a funny question, because I give so much advice to people about things to add to their pedal boards, and I don't even keep a static board anymore.
Yeah.
So I did a series months ago where I kind of would build one board for the week and then swap 1 or 2 things out each day. But what I found is that anytime I wire up a full-on board, I have to disassemble it at some point right after. So the unfortunate prospect of being a full-time demo person is that you don't really have the ability to keep things all dialed in. I will say that one of my next projects that I was planning after I got 50 fuzzes, and I still may do this, is getting like the best of one pedal from every builder and getting it in stealth black. So the enclosure's black, knobs are black, and then it has a cool color LED. But then it'll have kind of like semi-black or gray text for the writing, because I really liked that reverb run that they did. I think it was Black Friday 2019, where all the boutique builders surprise released those blacked out pedals. I want to create a full-on rig for myself that is that. So every pedal is a stealth pedal, one from each builder, but then I might end up just giving that away as a huge promotion for all my builders I work with.
Wow.
Because what I'm trying to encourage is, because I work for different people, I've got them talking to each other. So they didn't know each other before. So like Garland FX from Texas was one of my first builders I worked with. He does the things with the tweed. And they look really nice, and he does a really clean job. So like he was talking to one guy, and then Brandon and Lucky started talking. They swap pedals and they talk about design, and then Nick talks to Brandon. So Haggard talks to Brandon because they're local, And so it's like everyone starts communicating. Well, what's effective is if you kind of cross promote. So if we did a board with one pedal from each builder, then we can all promote it together. And instead of me reaching 1,000 people or them reaching 1,000 people, it's everyone working together. We can reach 100,000.
Yeah. I like your thinking, and I like the way you're approaching it, and because it's basically the way the way I'm thinking, and the way when I set up FX Pedal Planet was to have that same ethos. Is to, I mean, James Oliphant at Elephant Pedals, he makes some cracking pedals up in Scotland, and we featured him a few times, and he said, you know, he's had a number of sales on the back of the features we've done and stuff, and I'm like, yay, brilliant. Do you know what I mean? It's just nice. I like that. I like to be able to try and give to the industry in any way that we can. Do you know what I mean? It's just nice thing to do, I think, really. And I think we've got the same sort of thinking and same sort of approach.